In this video, we're going to take a minute to look at how in Rise we're going to condense a very long lesson with many screenshots into just a single block using the custom blocks. Before I jump in, there's a couple of things that I want to do. The first thing is I want to get these colors. So I'm going to open up my WebM contrast checker. If you have the color contrast analyzer, you could also use that tool here. I'm going to take my picker, choose this color. I do want to note right off the bat that the contrast for this first chevron here with the white text is really right on the edge. It's okay for large text, but anything smaller than 14-point bold, this would not be acceptable. We're going to leave it as is because it's part of a larger ecosystem. If this were a one-off, we would definitely want to make this darker so that we get further past right on the border of that color contrast. I am purely using these not necessarily to check contrast, but to store my hex code so that I can use them in a little bit. Next step is I just want to make a quick plan. So when I look at this content, if I come all the way down, this entire infographic is really where we want to be, with spaces to discuss the steps in between. So we've got plan to teach. We're identifying up here that plan to teach is step 1. So I want to make sure that that's in the graphic that we create. And then we'll want to make sure that everything within this larger infographic, plan to teach, prepare for implementation, train staff, evaluate fidelity and evaluate student progress, and all of their sub-content is there. The way that this was dealt with previously and why the lesson is so long is it was put in a timeline, and each one of those steps, evaluate student progress, was defined using a list underneath there. That was fine at the time, but because we have the ability to make these graphics now with live text, that is the way that we're going to go. So we have steps to effective implementation. I'm noticing right off the bat, that is our heading level 1. We've got a heading level 2 that is the exact same heading. The next heading that we would have is step 1. So if we've got a heading level 1, we're going to go ahead and remove this heading since it's just a duplicate of our lesson title. So we will hear heading level 1, steps to effective implementation. There are 5 steps to effective implementation. When we go to create this graphic, step 1 then needs to be our heading level 2. Plan to teach, which will be inside of our infographic, is going to be our heading level 3. And the reason it's important to just take a minute and think through that is it's going to make our content a lot easier when we go in to start creating it. I'm going to come up to the area where I want to put this custom block in, hit my plus sign for a new block, and I'm going to come to custom block. And I'm going to, in this case, choose a blank block. Once I have my custom block, I also need a reference to figure out what it is that I'm going to make. So I'm going to come down to the bottom. I'm going to hit Windows Shift S on my machine. I'm working on a Windows machine. That's going to give me a screenshot tool. And all I'm going to do here is take a screenshot of the final infographic so that I have a reference to work from. I'm going to keep this infographic on my second screen so you won't see it, but what you will see is the result where I'm using this as a reference and then creating the graphic as we go along. So we'll come back up in my custom block. I'm going to click the Create a Custom Block option. And I'm just going to start making what I need to make in here. First thing I notice is this comes in, the default sizing is 920 by 600. We're going to need this to be taller. I also want to start a little bit wider than this just to give myself a little bit more breathing room. So I'm going to start with a width of 1200 pixels. And then we're just going to start placing our content in there. So the first thing that we said we need is a heading level 2 that states step 1. And I'm not entirely sure how we're going to format this yet, so I'm just going to put this at the top for now. The next thing we need is that chevron. And we need it to be the correct color. So I'm going to come back to my WebM contrast checker, and pull that hex code for the first color and place that hex code in the color space for this shape. We also need text over the top of this, and we will need to adjust the scale of this chevron to fit the needs of our image. So I'm going to hit the text again. This and that is going to be a heading level 3. And we're going to say plan to teach. We'll just bring this up over the top. This is supposed to be white. So you can see, based on the screenshot, we've got the content in there, but this chevron in our original is much longer, much narrower, and doesn't have quite as extreme a concavity where the chevron comes in to make that arrow. So we will adjust our chevron to meet that need. Okay, that looks pretty good to me for right now, and we will adjust if we need. So we've got plan to teach. The next thing we need is enough chevrons coming out to cover the needs of the rest of our content underneath plan to teach. So that's skill behavior acquisition goal, data collection systems, evidence-based interventions, and how steps materials. So we need 4 more chevrons in that lighter blue. All I'm going to do for that is select my initial chevron, Control-C, Control-V, and bring it out. You'll also notice that in the infographic, the secondary chevrons with the sub-content are slightly narrower and that lighter color. Okay, I think I've got my chevron about where I want it to be, and we will see as we go if we've got enough room, and if we don't, we will adjust based on our needs. You can see when I reduced the size of this box, it formatted it exactly how I want it to be formatted, given the template that I'm working off of, but I've got way too much leading in between there. The spacing in between my lines is too much. So to address that, I'm just going to go up to my spacing tool, and I'm going to reduce my line height. As you're moving these around, it should snap to the center of the chevron, both vertically and horizontally. If it doesn't, you can always select both objects and use your position tool to horizontally align the center and vertically align the center. From here, we just need to duplicate everything that we've done for the rest of the content for this first part of the infographic. Okay, I have all of my images. I can see there's still a little bit of detail work that we need to do. The chevrons aren't quite exactly how I want them to be in terms of their spacing. So I want to make sure that I'm using consistent spacing. So select all of my chevrons, come to position, and use my distribute spacing and distribute the horizontal spacing. I don't want my text selected while I'm doing that, so I'm going to redo that real quick. That has given me consistent spacing across all of my chevrons. Now what I want to do is just put the rest of my text in. And then I want to center everything out and adjust my layout just a little bit to make it match the original. Now that I have everything in space, I'm also seeing that with this scale of type, this makes it a little bit too close on these secondary chevrons. So I'm going to adjust that a little bit just by scaling up these chevrons. I'm holding down Option right now, or Alt on my keyboard, so that it will scale them from the center. Okay, that's looking pretty good for this first one. Now we need to figure out what to do with our step 1. And in this case, I think we're just going to place that over the top of our first step. Now we just need to duplicate all of the work that we've done. I'm going to scale that all up a little tiny bit more. That's looking pretty good. Now we just need to duplicate that work for the rest of our steps. I am now thinking that it may be better to use the embedded heading level 2 in our lesson for step 1 and purely have the infographic in under plan to teach, and then duplicate that infographic with the custom block and separate it as we go. So let's give that a try. So I've rescaled this just to fit my infographic. And I'm going to jump out of my custom block space, even though I know there's a little bit more editing I need to do in here, but I will do that in a second. And just take a look. So right here, we have the first part of our infographic. And what I'm going to do is just add a block right above there with a heading. Note this as step 1. I don't like the spacing of that. So we're going to see if I edit my block by coming to the format menu, if I make my width large, it still doesn't jump it out far enough for what I like. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that as medium, and I'm going to center that text. So now what we've got are there are 5 steps to effective communication. Step 1, we would hear heading level 2. Heading level 3, plan to teach, skill, behavior, acquisition goal, data collection systems to monitor progress, and so on and so on. And we have a framework that we can continue to duplicate as we go down. And we can do that using our Manage Blocks tool. So I'll select both step 1 and my infographic and hit duplicate. And then I'm going to reorient these so that they're organized on the page the way that I want. Right now I've got step 1 infographic, step 1 infographic. I'll come back out, obviously change that step 1 to step 2, and then come in and edit this custom block for my second portion of the infographic. Just to make it easier on myself, I'm going to go ahead and delete the portions I won't need for this second part of the infographic. And another thing that we haven't done yet is we need to adjust our focus order. We'll do this on the first block too. So I'm going to click focus order here. My chevron 1, I do not want alternate text. That's going to create this as a decorative object, and it will not be read out by a screen reader. Then I've got my heading 3, which says prepare for implementation. My second chevron, my heading, my paragraph saying materials, and my third paragraph after the next chevron saying environment. So the way that this is going to be read out is it's going to say heading 3, prepare for implementation, materials, environment. Now we've got step 1, we've got our first custom block, we've got step 2, our second custom block. We just want to double check our focus order on the first custom block. And we have a lot of chevrons on here, so it's really up to you. You could go ahead and group all of your chevrons and then send them to the back. Then what we're going to get is a single group. And visually, it's just a little bit calmer because we've got our group 1 that is image-based, and we do not have alt text for it because it is decorative. Then we've got our heading 3, and then each one of our paragraphs as we go down. So that is reading correctly. We'll go ahead and keep that as is. Now we're just going to duplicate all of this work and continue to go and then see how we feel about it at the end. Okay, we've got all 5 of them set. Let's take a look at what the overall aesthetic is and whether or not we want to change anything. The only thing that I don't love is the step labels and where they are in relationship to everything else. I think we can do a little bit better there. That feels much better to me. So what we did is I went and edited this first custom block, added step 1 right at the beginning so that we have our step 1, which will be read out as a heading level 2, step 1, heading level 3, plan to teach, and then all of our content afterwards. So I'm going to adjust the rest of our content to match that aesthetic, and then we will call it done. All right, that's all done. Let's give it another preview to make sure it looks how we want. We'll remove that step 1 up at the top, but overall that looks great. The last thing we might do is reduce some of the spacing in between the blocks just to bring them a little bit closer together. All right, and we are all done.